Well, hello again, and welcome back to this episode of 1320 Time Stream, where we're covering the Oracle for the Red Planetary Serpent. Okay, let's get into some of our energies here, starting with the Red Planetary Serpent. Even though we've covered this a little earlier in the wave spell section, check it out again. And we got our Planetary Wizard. Our Planetary Skywalker. I like the pairing between the Wizard and the Skywalker here. Ooh, and the Planetary Eagle. This is going to be a fun one. And our Self-Existing Warrior. Okay, so the first thing that comes up for me upon looking at our Planetary Wizard is that yesterday the challenging power of the day was the Wizard. And there was this whole thing about the seed. What was created it was almost like, we were recognizing that we were in the void that is the night. We're in the darkness, we're in that intuitive, we're in that inner womb. And that spirit, represented by the wind, is becoming the seed. It's like those are the energy structures in the dreams, and that's the energy which charges up that which is the night, which is the dream, which is all in the dragon image, which is like the womb or like the vaginal canal. And so we're in this gestation area, and then the seed is made up of all these kind of like liminal structures, and it's like this architecture which gets emplaced in a thing which can grow. And so the challenging power was the Wizard, and it was like in our life, in the way that we're gestating and that we're growing, we're creating this signature. And the wizard aspect, I find, is that part of us that's like, okay, this is my practice. There's like a very specific skill set or practice in it. And so that's kind of carrying over to today. And so that energy of the Wizard is now, it was the challenging yesterday, and because we went into it, today it's the helping power. It's going to flow much easier. And so that's helping us move this energy. What was in seed form is now in that stem form. The energy is now flowing from the seed out the stem and becoming that flower. And so the Wizard, in this way too, you also take a look at that, Shiva energy of like the cultivating sexual energy. You can really see the mix between the serpent and the Wizard almost as like, this self-disciplined being who has these practices of being able to breathe up the sexual energy. And in the same way, the electromagnetic field working with the earth kundalini as it moves into like the stem of a flower or plant or thing like that. Whether it's the human body or whether it's the natural biosphere, it all kind of works in the same way around the movements of energy. And so I feel that's the Wizard, is really helping us stabilize that skill set, however that shows up for us. That definitely going into the Skywalker, guided by space. And again, this is, that Wizard is helping us perfect it. So it's like we're finalizing it. We're bringing it to its completion. And so in turn as well, the Skywalker, because the Skywalker in the kind of like, lineage, human Skywalker Wizard, the Skywalker and the Wizard are very connected, because the Skywalker, the Wizard actually is created from the journey the human takes through the Skywalker. And so it's like the trimming, it's like the bonsai. This is where the tree becomes the bonsai tree, and the Skywalker is the process of bonsai. It's the process of making it so, okay, this tree, we're hyper allocating its chi so that it can become vital in all the aspects. And there's a specific science to that. And so each one has a very unique dynamic, very much like each human in their path as well, is very much like the bonsai tree. We are like the bonsai tree when we begin to take our life and our path and our skill set seriously and begin to cultivate that, because we're skilling it, we're pruning it, we're doing all these things with it. And I find that's what the Skywalker is representing. It is the like going into the space where we're developing all that is, that's moving around this perfecting sexual energy. So we're not only like in the skill set, we're exploring the space of what that skill set is. We're exploring the space of where that vital life force energy is. And the Skywalker is not only helping us explore that space, it's also helping us really define those skill sets. And so not allowing the Wizard to really advance in its technique. And this moving over to the Wizard, the Eagle, which is actually after the Wizard. It actually goes 13, 14, 15, which is Skywalker, Wizard, and Eagle. And so it's really interesting because the wizard is like, for me, it's a lot more about the skill sets and whatnot, but the eagle is more about, it's the ascended vision where it just comes up into a larger scope or a planetary mind. And so I find that the eagle today is kind of like perfecting the big picture. And so while there are details, the eagle is kind of inviting us to go, okay, those details are going to come later. A little more like yesterday, we're in the seed mode, so we're in detail mode, but today we're in the big picture, so it's time to really go into what makes the whole thing a whole system, what makes it a whole spectrum, what makes it complete. And so the vision itself can come to the planetary level, which I also find is really poignant, is the fact that it's planetary eagle, because the eagle, one of the four minds, serpent, dog, eagle, and sun, it represents planetary mind. And so that's the mind of the planet. I am the planet is pretty much the affirmation there. And so having the planetary tone on the eagle itself is like, a double whammy around that. And that's saying that, yes, we're perfecting how we are showing up as the big picture, and making sure that that's really connected with the serpent, because that big picture can be like a big canopy on a tree, but it needs to have a solid trunk that has deep roots, that movement, that life force, that vitality to connect it, or it becomes unbalanced. And so the serpent is really helping us keep balance to that greater vision. And the warrior is an interesting one today, because of its self-existing tone. It is that aspect that may be looking into the details, that we may be seeing details, we may be probing the unknown a little bit more, because we are also in the warrior wave spell. And so we're kind of like a double kind of warrior action. And this one is looking into, like, as we get the big picture, it's like, okay, the big picture is kind of showing us an entirely new paradigm. Very much like we were talking about at the beginning of this wave spell, when we're talking about dealing with this new paradigm. And so the warrior is taking a look at, well, as we have this big vision, what are some of the fundamental codes of conduct that create the dynamic viability of this vision as an interactive methodology of life, as the planetary tone itself. And so this is helping us define and create that container for those different nuances, which are like the mechanics of that plausible paradigm, so that we can really look into that and take a look at the details and take a look at the finer workings in all that. So yeah, that feels pretty good around that, and I'm going to leave us there as far as the oracle goes. So stay tuned for the Mayan Pyramid meditation coming up next.